40 years when I've been 1 or 2 minutes late. Here at Duggar, it taught me to be on time, and I'm usually on time, so we're running a little bit late. You guys come on in. Elizabeth, y'all come on in and let's get seated. Let's get this thing started. We got a lot to cover and a short time to cover it. First of all, I want to say good morning, everybody. I'm Chairman Stan Jones, and this is the Arkansas Game and Fish. This is our November 29th and 30th meeting, and here in Jonesboro, Arkansas, at Arkansas State University. And gosh, I look out in the crowd and I see a lot of faces that I know. The first thing I usually do is introduce guests. But I would tell you, we've probably got 40 guests today. And it would be hard for me to go around and introduce everybody that's here. Y'all come on in, Josh. You know, we usually do 50 push-ups. We're going to let that slide this morning. We're going to let that slide this morning. But I do thank you for the guests that are here. And we're just not going to take, to try to introduce this many people. It'll just be way too much. We've got a pretty heavy agenda. You guys want to come on in?
You got everybody, I think.
Well, there's some more seats.
More chairs up
There's
here.
more chairs in here. We have got a lot to cover this morning. 50 push-ups, Luke.
Where?
Don't show off.
Which end?
Yeah, we notice everybody that's late. Listen, this morning before we get started, we want to have the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Major Brian Ashton to come over to the podium and offer the prayers this morning, and immediately following, we'll pledge allegiance.
If you would join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunity to come together, Lord, as a group of believers. Lord, I pray that as we enter into this holiday season, Lord, that you would take and wrap your arms around each and every family that's represented here today and those that are joining us online. Lord, I know that this is a glorious time of year, Lord, where we get to celebrate you. But Lord, we also know that there's a lot among us who have lost loved ones this year. Lord, I ask that you would wrap your arms around them, lift them up during this time of year, give them the affirmation that they need. Lord, I pray for the men and women of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Lord, I ask that you would give them wisdom and discernment as we are stewards of your creation, Lord. It's a task that we don't take lightly. Lord, I just ask that you would guide us in doing the right thing in a world where it's so easy to do wrong. Lord, I pray for the commissioners and the directorate as they continue to lead our agency, Lord. Just lift them up, guide them in everything that they do for your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first matter is approval of today's agenda. And are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make 3 recommendations to edit the agenda. Under delegations, I have 2. I'd like to add Mayor Copenhagen for an update on the shooting range here in Jonesboro. I would like to add Elizabeth Kimball from our Education Division to introduce a special guest that she spoke about yesterday. And because Mayor is coming to give us an update on Jonesboro shooting range, my recommendation under item 3C is to go ahead and delete that item, as that would be duplicative.
Okay, I'm going to need a motion to amend the agenda. So
Second.
all of those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's done. Is there anything else, Chris, in that we need to take care of, or is that got it covered?
It's got it covered, sir.
Okay, all right. Let's go up here to, I think Mayor Copenhagen is going to be the very first to start us off this morning. We're happy to have Mayor of Jonesboro, Harold Copenhagen, and Harold has a vision for our shooting range, and from where we started and to where it's at today. And Rick, glad to see you out here. Glad you've been a super big part of this. From where we started and to where we are today, we've come a long way. We're not where we want to be. We're not at the finish line yet.
That's right.
And we're glad that you're here to present to us today, and meeting is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity. More importantly, what a packed room. Yesterday, just 24 hours ago, was about half full. So today, I appreciate all the guests that are in our community. Jonesboro is a very welcoming community, and I want to say thank you to Arkansas State University for the facility, for allowing the usage of this, and the chairman and director Booth and all the chairman commissioners. Thank you for amending your minutes. Sometimes that's harder done than said. So I appreciate that. You gave a second. I appreciate it. But as we move forward, I think it's very important that the community, Northeast Arkansas, Jonesboro, the tri-state area, receive an update of the investment of a partnership that started in 2000, around 2000 to 2001 initially, with the Arkansas Game and Fish. The Arkansas Game and Fish initially partnered with us on a project, and it was a vision. And this project committed $2 million of federal tax dollars, along with the city of Jonesboro taxpayers and county of $2 million, each. So I would like to go ahead and play a video. We played a short video yesterday. I would like to do this. This will give you a good vision, and then I'll go into a short presentation.
We've come a long way since we first broke ground on the Jonesboro Shooting Sports Complex, and we're continuing to grow and build right now. We have 9 track fields where we also do black light Friday night trap, 3 skeet fields, 50-yard pistol bays, a 200-yard rifle bays, the standard back archery targets up to 75 yards, and then we just opened our 20-target 3D archery range. We have regular membership participants that come over from the Memphis area, from the Boot Hill of Missouri, from all the way down to almost Little Rock. What we found was that the immediate need in the area that was not being addressed was that there was not a range that anywhere locally, the closest ones in most instances were going to be 50+ miles away. Arkansas has one of the largest youth shooting sports programs in the entire country. Northeast Arkansas is a hub for some of the best shooters, not just in the state, but nationally.
Some of the tournaments we've won is we've come within the top 32 teams in the state multiple years in a row as seniors. And what I love about TRAP is the ability to learn how to shoot guns and know the safety behind it, and just come out here and practice every day.
My son got introduced to trap shooting in 7th grade. What it allowed him to do was be able to learn how to set goals, respect authority, learn gun safety, but be able to be plugged into a team sport.
Well,
Trap kind of introduced me to a new family. My family didn't hunt or anything, and so I never got a chance to go. And so Trap gave me that experience of somewhat hunting, but not game-wise, but on a competitive sports field.
This provides you with a safe environment. They can come straight from school here and practice. Coaches are super appreciative of the fact that we can expand our program now. We're not limited by the fact that we've only got one trap field. We've got some great partnerships with some local businesses that were field sponsors, and so it's been a great partnership from that standpoint of helping their business out, being visible. They're giving back to the community. We've got a great partnership with D&W. They're sponsoring the 3D archery range. All our targets out there came through them. United Pawn does a great job. United Police Supply, their sponsor on the projects range down there. Our hope for the future would be an opportunity to continue to expand. One of the things we're looking at is adding 5 stand, which is another play sport. We can overlay that on fields 1, 2, and 3. The other thing that we'd like to see developed is the pond with fishing pier, boat ramp, a trail to go around that, and then if we could add RV parking. But what we would most like to see is the clubhouse educational building built out on this side of the range so that we've got an opportunity to host the state trap tournament yearly, give us a place for training seminars, and just allow us to finish out the range like it was originally planned.
So thank you for following along with that presentation. But as we mentioned yesterday, we take pride in Jonesboro and the variety of amenities that this complex is now offering. It includes 25 200-yard rifle range availability, another 25 stations for 50-yard pistol range, 9 trap fields, 3 skeet overlay fields, and 20 target 3D archery range and bag archery range up to 70 yards. No other range in Arkansas has that many options, but we still have true needs. Yesterday, I was asked by the commissioner, where do we stand when it comes to the phase of completion? And I said, we're roughly around 70%. But if you grant a request to partner with us on the final facility, that would put us about 90 to 95% complete. But it will also enable further growth. For example, RV is not a need until you start hosting multi-day tournaments. Our current state of build does not qualify us for a state ATA tournament, which is a 6-day event. We also lack an educational facility. However, we have a plan for one. It would be used for shooting sports competitions and education, but we also want to collaborate with the Crowley's Ridge Nature Center, which is truly entertaining, interactive attraction south of Jonesboro. And I think you would all love it if you have not seen it. I am also confident that our shooting sports complex draws visitors from the Nature Center, which is a natural combination, and they'll grow off of each other for years to come. Our educational clubhouse would be used not only to teach about trap and skeet shooting and archery skills and safety, but also training seminars, corporate team building events, and all other types of activities that might not be well suited for outdoor entertainment. It also is a shelter during tournaments for inclement weather. Currently, our shooting sports complex hosts 5 area junior high school and high school teams that call JSSC their home field, nurturing the next generation of sharpshooters and fostering camaraderie among the competition. Our goal is to grow to at least a dozen schools to call this their home, with the needs that include for additional coaching with a minimal budget. In July, our coach, Joey Glob, who you saw on the video, and he's here present with us today, he took 20 junior high school and high school students to the AIM Grand National Trap Shooting Championship in Illinois. This is granddaddy of them all. All 4 teams came back as winners, placing 1st to 4th in various categories. Coach Glob has taken teams to nationals in the past 8 years, but he's never seen success like that before. This is a direct credit to Coach Glob and the facility, which was opened just barely 2 years ago. So right now, we are a self-supported and self-sponsored facility. Our memberships are $100 an individual. They're $150 for a family. Very affordable. Single-day activities are only $10. Therefore, this affordable entertainment as well as family activities, we've included movie nights, and as you saw on the screen, black light Friday night trap shooting. Anybody ever done that? Very unusual, right? We're thinking outside the box, and I can assure you we have many more opportunities at the site that we're at for other additions as well. So it's so nice to see families, especially as we did in the last month, even on Thanksgiving holidays, coming out as a family to enjoy the complex. Listen, we have many needs in Jonesboro, and we're growing, and I hope many of you have seen that, what's occurring in Jonesboro. But this is a big balance, and we need this. Even our Young Professionals Network inquired last week about coordinating an event at our range. Our ultimate objective is to increase membership, generate awareness and interest in the diverse world of shooting sports. By expanding our event and tournament capacity, we can host a wide array of competitions, attracting participants at all levels and backgrounds. Furthermore, our dedication, most importantly, to education outreach will be bolstered, fostering a deeper understanding of responsible firearm use, archery techniques, and overall safety practices. Yesterday, the commission asked me how many visitors we've currently had. I stated 20,000 visitors approximately. I was corrected by Mr. Glob, and he said we're approaching almost 25,000 visitors in less than a year and a half. I'm here today before the commission to ask for a partnership, a financial commitment in our new educational facility. Our estimated cost of a little over 5,000 square foot facility is around $3.5 million. I will allow the commission to develop what they feel is a comfortable level of a partnership, and I'm asking for your support to get us to that 90 and 95% level in our community. The partnership with the Crowley's Ridge Nature Center is a key integral part as we continue to work together, but more importantly, this provides opportunities for youth, to be honest with you, that have other things that are available in their community that they can't participate in. This is what this allows them to do. It allows them leadership. It allows them the ability to be organized, to understand the commitment as well as what their community is. We are very unique in the fact that we're in a tri-state area. And as I mentioned earlier, we're having shooters come from all over this area, but more importantly, the Boot Hill, Memphis, Tennessee, and others. And I am again in front of you as a commission saying thank you for your time today. I wanted to give you an update of your original investment. Financially, I will say what the city of Jonesboro has committed on top of this has been an additional $8.6 million has been our additional investment after the initial partnership from the Arkansas Game and Fish. We are committed, we are excited about it, and we're here to answer any questions that the commission might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Any questions? Mayor, I would just make a comment that sometimes we let things go and we don't really know. You know, like if I want to sight my 30-06 in, I can just walk out my front door or walk out my back door and sight it in. Levi, you can do the same thing. Jerry, you can do the same. Many of us who live out can just sight in our guns whenever we want to. But people who live 100,000 who live here in Jonesboro, 100,000 who live in Conway and these other places, Fayetteville and Bentonville, they can't. This is so critical to this area that you can, that people in the city can go shoot their guns, shoot trout, shoot skeet, shoot their pistol. I mean, where else are they going to do it? You know, and the way today is, you just can't go down a gravel road out on somebody's property and start shooting a gun. You're really in trouble if you do that. You know, when most of us, some of us grew up, we could do that. It wasn't a big deal. But this shooting complex is way more important than we probably put emphasis. And as time goes on, it's even going to be more important.
That's right.
So we need to finish this and get it to that 100% or 95,
yes, sir,
whatever mark that we're trying to get it to.
Okay.
Got a question, Sam.
Yes, sir.
So, from a personal or business standpoint, are there sponsorships available?
Yes, sir.
Still?
Continually.
Like trap ranges? What's available?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, we have 3 still available on our trap fields.
Okay.
Chief, if you, this is my Chief Elliott. He's been in the project since day one. He could probably give you an update on more of those in regards to your
Yes.
question.
Good morning, Commission. This is probably about the 3rd time I've been before y'all since we started this project. Currently, we have 3 trap fields available. Sponsorship for those fields, about $75,000 on a 10-year commitment. We still have sponsorship for the classroom at the current building that's in place, the pistol and rifle shed buildings. They're up for sponsorship also. Finding sponsors has not been a hard thing to do. Just throw a concept out there, a general conversation, and get a check. This is not a hard thing to get out and sell. These last 3 fields, we've got some folks that are interested. I don't think it's a hard sell. But the whole facility, when we get the main building built, we will do like Jacksonville. We will sell off the classroom for sponsorship also. So as the mayor said, this whole project is a public-private partnership to get where we're at. We can't just do it all on the tax dollar. We do depend on our private partners, but in a short period of time, the growth and the amount of people that have come in and have participated is unbelievable. But we offer not only a service, but we offer customer service. So as Mr. Jones alluded to, that, yeah, you can just go outside your rifle in, but we have staff there that will assist you in sighting a rifle in. You know, we'll have guys, line guys that are qualified that will help spot for you and help make those adjustments. And anything, you know, how about with your firearms? We've encountered people that had problems with their firearms and scopes and things like that. So we go another level. I have retired officers working there that are certified armors, instructors, former snipers. So, you know, assisting with people on the range, not only pistol, rifle, and then of course they have the experts down on the trap and skeet in. So the whole customer service aspect of this is just as important as the facility itself. A lot of facilities just you go and shoot on your own, but you know, are you really doing yourself any good if you're not doing it right? So, you know, we don't be intrusive on people, but we do offer services like we can make you better than what you are today.
And everything
Wouldn't
is
be hard.
Beg your pardon?
That wouldn't be hard.
Well, and everything is safety oriented, so everything is electronics and no firing down range until everybody's ready. The unique thing about this is, and Chairman, I'm glad you brought that up, is I've seen individuals that have never fired a gun before come out and with the help and assistance of the personnel, they make you feel comfortable. They make you enjoy. You're not afraid of the firearm, and now they're participating that would have never done it before. And then they pass that educational tool on to other families.
Well, two things. Who do we contact if somebody wants to sponsor it?
I've got a card right here.
And the second thing, Commissioners, don't you think he definitely wins best tie? I mean, that's a great.
I thought it'd be appropriate for today.
Hey, Sherry, take a picture of that.
I'm pretty sure if you'll just sign a check, he'll send it back with his name.
I was really thinking more about you, Rob.
I do have a question about the current facility.
Sherry's got it covered.
Sherry picked that up.
The current facility you have, what's it used for in the space that it provides, and then in what you're asking for compared to that?
Okay.
Give me a
Chief, if
total
you'll tell
picture.
your side, and then Joey, if you don't mind coming up, you can tell the other.
Yes, current facility, of course, we have pistol rifle on one end, and there's a separation of some woods, then skeet, trap, and archery on the other end.
I'm more referring to the buildings themselves.
Oh, the building on the pistol and rifle end has a classroom that'll hold about 20, 25. So daily, or like on weekends, we will have concealed carry classes. There's been some hunter ed classes come out. There have been some officials from the Nature Center that's come over and put on classes for women. So that classroom environment for the public's been great. For me on my end, it also serves as a training facility for my people. And not only my people, but other law enforcement in the region are utilizing the facility quite often.
You guys need more space? I'm just asking.
Well, the main building will have a bigger classroom, and so we have bigger events on the trap and skeet. We're having to put up a big tent to accommodate people, get them out of the heat, feed them, things like that. The main building, we've got a concession stand built in, a large classroom, and for my end, when I host large classrooms, the city itself really doesn't have a facility that I can seat 50 to 80 people.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to borrow a church or whatever. This would also serve my needs on the law enforcement end also. So the whole facility, it's not just shooting sports. Well, it is shooting sports, but it also serves a purpose for law enforcement across the board too. So it's a place for any kind of firearm training for people to come in and accomplish what they want to accomplish. We do have a programs range that is kind of limited to the special event, whether it be law enforcement. On weekends, we've had the Appleseed group come in and do the weekend deal with them. I've had some special forces people come in and put on some events. So the whole gamut of training is out there. But the good thing about this facility, what it's brought to us and what it's bringing to us, there is a training company that is looking to base here in Jonesboro that will provide not only weapons training to civilian, military, and law enforcement, but this is a group comprised of several Navy SEALs, former SEALs, people that are looking to move here from Virginia, New Jersey, Philadelphia, because of, one, the facility, and two, Jonesboro. And this group, this training facility that's looking to build here, it's because of what they pulled in and saw and the potential of what they're trying to do and the fact that they can utilize this facility to complement what they're trying to do, only has now brought this thing even to a larger level.
Chairman, in more reflection on your question, based on the west end of the facility, we do have the original shop building. And when we did the grand opening in 2001, some of the commissioners were here for that grand opening. We still have the small 10 by 20 building, and that's all we have on the range side of the facility. So this would be on the east side of the facility, which we have no building complex. Where you saw all the trap shooting fields, there is no building on that side of the complex, okay? That's where this building would be facilitated.
And I assume you have to have area of refuge and stuff to host tournaments and things.
That's what we do not have at this point in time, other than some cover stations that we put in to several 20 by 20 covered umbrella stations. That's all we have at this point. Good question.
All right, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
And Rick, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Guys, at this time, we need to not skip over, we need to make sure that we officially approve our committee meeting notes and our agenda. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Yep, I'm going to officially call this meeting to order. And Harold, Mayor, we've done had one guest speaker, and let's move right on into Elizabeth Kimball. She gave a really, really good presentation yesterday, but she has told us that she can make this a little better.
Just a little.
And so she's got a little something to add to this right now.
I do. Thank you for having me again. My name is Elizabeth Kimball. I'm an educator at the Forest Elwood Crowley Ridge Nature Center here in Jonesboro. And yesterday I shared with you a personal story that really drives home why we do what we do in education. Today, I'm so thankful that I'm able to introduce you to the face behind the story, my friend, Dr. Hetal Patel. Good morning. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for delivering my story yesterday. Good morning to the commission, the foundation, and to everybody that's here today. I'm so glad I got to follow up after the presentation on the shooting complex, which I wasn't going to talk about, but I am going to tag along to that. Every shooting course that we have taken through Elizabeth's program has been at the Jonesboro Shooting Complex. My family has since become members. The day after Thanksgiving, I bought my son his first rifle because tomorrow he's going on his first mentored hunt. And they sighted him in 2 shots, and he joined the 100-yard club. I can't speak enough to the customer service and the education that they offer at the shooting complex. It is integral for people like us, just like you said, Commissioner. We can't go out into our backyard in Plantation Estates or Ridge Point and just start sighting in or shooting. It's been integral for me to go there to practice archery, pistol, rifle, shotgun. What else have I picked up, Elizabeth?
Everything.
Muzzle loading.
What hasn't she picked up at this point?
Muzzle loading, and they're helpful with everything, whether it's, where to buy my percussion caps or whatever it might be. So thank you for having that available to the city of Jonesboro and the surrounding areas. I also want to thank the commission and the foundation for offering these programs, the education program, meeting women with like minds, different cultures, different backgrounds is so empowering. Not being from the area, not having any background in hunting, it's nice to go outside my family, go outside my culture, and not be judged, and be surrounded by women and men with like minds, with the purpose to serve and to educate and to boost confidence. You know, I never knew I could be a shooter. I never knew I could be a hunter. I don't know what I can be unless I'm shown that I can be it or been given an opportunity to do so. With that said, my whole family has benefited from this. I know you heard my story from Elizabeth. We are so thankful, my family and I. We can't wait to become outdoors people, help support the shooting complex, continue to help support the education services, the bow program, the youth programs that are offered not only in Northeast Arkansas, but throughout the state of Arkansas and in other states. I recently learned that Louisiana has a bow, and they send some of their delegates over to our big bows during the fall and in the summer, I believe. I thought that was really neat, just to cross boundaries, cross borders, meet other people. Anyway, with all that said, I would like to show my gratitude to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. I would like to present a check to the women's bow events in NEA for $1,250, and a second check to the youth events of Northeast Arkansas for another $1,250. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Patel, thank you so much. I love her story and her story from her family. It's just spot on with what the folks in education and really all Game and Fish were trying to do to knock those barriers down, to introduce new people to the outdoors. And so, by the way, my name is Deke Whitbeck. I'm the president of the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation. And a primary function of the foundation is to help align a donor's passion with the wonderful programs that Game and Fish Commission conducts. And so these dollars will be directed towards your choosing, and we'll get the education and these programs bolstered to continue in Northeast Arkansas. So thank you so much for the awesome story.
Thank you, thank you.
Dr. Patel, I have a question before you sit down. So how old are your kids?
I've got a 2-year-old, I've got a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old.
Okay, and so now, let me make sure, a lot of people weren't here yesterday, but just out of, where did you get your want to begin to want to have guns and begin to get into this culture?
So, my husband was born in London, I was born in Africa, my family were immigrants here. My kids are first generation. I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, so some of my friends, their parents hunted, they went fishing, and when I was younger, I just remember having my first deer steak. I was probably 15 years old, and I was like, this is amazing. It was my first cut of meat ever, no chicken, nothing. And I asked her dad about it, and he told me how he would hunt a deer, and he'd hang it from the basketball goal. And I'm wide-eyed over here like, so you went out and you got this. And since then, I'd always been interested. I had a friend in 6th grade, Travis Crone. I actually sent him a picture of my first harvest. I hadn't talked to him in years. He taught me how to use a BB gun in his backyard. Like, I could ride my bicycle up the road from my parents' motel, and he taught me how to use a BB gun. And then I had a friend that took me fishing with her. And I always wanted to do it. It didn't have the background from my family. Then I went off for schooling. Everything, like hobbies just went to the back burner when you go to medical school. All that just has to wait. And so I waited. And even when we moved to Arkansas, we were curious. We were very interested. We wanted to buy land. We wanted to do these things, but we never knew how. And my husband included, he's got an office in Thayer, Missouri. He's got patients that offer him to go hunting all the time, but there's no background. There's no education. There's a gun and there's a blind and there might be a heater. You know, and that's not, I don't think that's the experience that we're quite looking for. I think when I explained to my mom, she's been really against this. When she's still a vegetarian, she doesn't drink, she's very clean cut. One of my little sister only recently started talking to me again. I mean, it's been a big deal in my family for me to be a hunter, or a huntress. But once I explained to them, like I had my mom watch some of the Hunter's Ed. I kind of explained to her the conservation and all the things that go into it, because I was floored. Like the laws, all the effort that's put into conserving the wildlife, meeting the wildlife biologist, like the dove biologist over at Chuck Long's place. It's a whole different universe that I know nothing about. And so when I explained that to my mother and my sister, they're kind of getting it a little bit more. We're not just out there to hunt, harvest, shoot, kill. There's a whole plethora of knowledge that goes behind that. And so I think that's really helped my mom and my family be more open to me becoming a huntress. Like, it's not just going out there and going bang, bang, bang.
When you need to get Commissioner Anne-Marie Doremus right here. Y'all need to exchange numbers because she takes a lot of women like you. It's just learning, and even some legislative women who want to, your husband, if he doesn't know how to shoot a gun, he doesn't know how to camo, he doesn't know there's so many things someone who's never done this doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And it's just because you get invited to go, well, thank you for the invitation, but I don't know anything about this. So we understand where you're at, and for the big move that you've made to begin to get into this, I think your thing, you went down that rabbit hole before you could.
Yep, it started in July and I haven't stopped.
Well, you need to meet Anne-Marie.
Yeah, I've got archery.
It only started this last July.
You did all this from July on?
Yep,
Wow.
I was able to harvest my own deer. What was it, 25 yards with a bow? And I did my own hunt. I did my own little trail, my blood trail.
When she killed her first squirrel, she texted me and she said, "Come over, I'm cooking you squirrel." And I was like, "I'm in."
I made squirrel casserole. I made curried squirrel. I've cooked a lot. I've cooked a lot. But incredible. I took a lot of pride in harvesting my own game. Took the skin off. I dressed it. I processed it myself. I got a meat grinder. I got some pork belly so I can mix in some fat. Like all these things that I learned, and I tried to make some deer soap with some deer tallow that I learned over at the camp. But yeah, all of it started in July.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
We're very proud.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Get my number from Lee and Elizabeth.
Okay. Oh, yeah, fantastic.
Thank
I got a
you.
new shopping purse.
Yes.
Got it for your store.
Yes, thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I don't care how old you get, is it not almost like cold chills and refreshing to hear someone who has this excitement about them, that they just starting, and just think of what all that she has ahead of her that she can explore and do and teach her children. And this is a big part of what we want to do as Game and Fish. Have the shooting range out here. We can let a lot of people learn what her husband and what they need to learn, and this is part of what keeps us alive. Hey, whenever we go to these different meetings and we go around the state of Arkansas, I've tried to, and I'm going to find people who live in the area. And today I've asked a couple of people to come and speak. And at this time I want to introduce Jerry Morgan. Jerry, come and take Jerry is from Lynn, Arkansas. And Jerry, I could probably tell your story, but I'm going to let you do it. And tell us what you want us to know tonight.
Well, I grew up in Lynn. My dad grew up in Lynn. My papa grew up in Lynn. And I'm fourth generation. I've got children now that is fifth generation. I've got grandchildren, not great yet, that are sixth generation. In fact, my 6-year-old, just last weekend, they were teaching him at how to shoot the 22. My son-in-law has a bench. We have a bank that we fire into and practice. Like Stan said, we're on the farm there, so we do our own sighting in. But we were teaching a 6-year-old. As he grows older, he'll be hunting in the same areas that I've hunted all my life. And I grew up there and didn't hunt at first because I was very busy. My dad worked all the time, and I followed in his footsteps. I was a workaholic. But then I found hunting as a relief. You get out in God's country, you get out there in the woods, and there's nobody around but just the squirrels and the animals that you're with, and it's God's country. But one thing that I want to talk about is Rainy Break. I farm on the north side of Rainy Break, on the south side of Rainy Break area down there. It's a beautiful, beautiful country, that wood land there. If you've ever never been there, drive around the Horseshoe Slough down there and just look at the beauty cypress that's in there. I grew up there. A lot of people take it for granted, the beauty there. But and I go back and what Stan was talking about earlier, and you go back and look at, I'm 65 years old, and when I started hunting, there wasn't a lot of hunting going on, and you could hunt on other people's property. They didn't care for you hunting on other people's property, and you could go down there. But as we move on in generations, the hunting profession has really bloomed. I mean, you look at where it was at 30 years ago and where it's at today, and the sport, and more people are out there. So the woods are more crowded, and the private ground got less to where you could use it. So Rainy Break is real important in our area to be able to go there and hunt there and use that. And we've got people coming in from other surrounding areas and hunting there. So, that's I want to say, you got big changes coming. You got a couple of big projects that are coming to the Rainy Break area, and also that's going to help out. But also the Coffee Access boat ramp, Game Fish is a big part of that, and Hill Slough. I don't know if y'all know where. A lot of you might know where Hill Slough's at, but the fishing that goes on in Hill Slough, I farm all around right there, and it's constant boats. And I'm gonna tell you, when duck season's coming in, because the week before duck season, the traffic is just enormous coming in and out, and people getting ready to hunt. So, we started down there farming at the Coffee Access, 120 acres, and we farmed the Game and Fish ground. That was about 90 acres right there. And that's back when we had a 620 and 630 John Deere. And that front 4-row front end cultivator. Now, a lot of you might not know what that is, but what we did, we left part of the crop for the game. And it's been a great area for us. And what we like about it is that our whole community, it's not just the community we live in, but, I saw the circle out there, Jonesboro and all the 50-mile radius. And we're in that 50-mile radius. And it draws people in there to have a place to go and to hunt, to fish. And it's a very, very vital part of the community that we live in. My son-in-law, when he was about 9-10 years old, and he's got 2 brothers, Josh Guerin, and I know some of you in here know Josh because he does some work for Game and Fish. Josh and my son-in-law Dustin and his brother Blake. Their dad took them down there and let them out in a P-road boat to duck hunt. Now, and they were educated, just like my 6-year-old right now, starting right now in education on how to shoot a gun, target practicing, how to use a gun, and they started at that age. Well, my grandkids don't have no choice but to start at that age and move forward there. It's important to keep moving forward, and y'all are doing a great job, the chair, in doing that in these projects that are coming up, and keeping the rainy break to where that it's active for duck hunting, deer hunting, the bow hunting. That's a great story there. A lot of people bow hunting in the rainy break there as well. I was walking out one day and just walked up on a hunter sitting up in a tree. I was duck hunting, and I was walking out, and there he was sitting in there, but he was bow hunting. And I got to share this story because one time I was in there duck hunting, and the ducks were in there, and we slid in, and all of a sudden they just started rolling. If you've never duck hunted, they roll when something's behind them. And I'm standing there up against this tree, and I'm thinking, what in the world are they doing? They kept rolling, and all of a sudden, a buck deer come about 30 yards right here. And then they kept rolling. 30 seconds later, here comes another buck deer. And I'm sharing this story with you because I want you to visualize being there and having the opportunity just to see that. You know, I shoot a lot, but now I shoot a lot with this. I love taking pictures and of the game that we have down there in those bottoms. But I know a lot of people that fish and hunt down there, and a lot of different people from other different communities. And I commend the commission for keeping that and doing progress. You know, used to you didn't see anybody down there, and now the woods are full. And when I mean full, used to you could hunt and it'd be 100 yards, 200 yards before you'd even have somebody else hunting next to you. Now you go in there and hunt, and you may have somebody right outside the door hunting next to you. That's how it's got down there, because the hunting has picked up so much in everybody's, like the young lady that started. And so people got to have a place to go, and Rainy Break is definitely a great place to go. And with that, Stan,
I would just say one more thing. Jerry, I know his family, and I know the Gearin family, that's your daughter, but in my life, I see these people, and I almost want to say indigenous people to that area. His daughter, Pretty, could have went anywhere she wanted to, but she makes sure she marries a guy right there because she don't intend to move. They are dug in, and generation after generation after generation. And you know, it's turkey, it's deer, it's duck, it's fishing. That's what, and farming, what holds y'all to that area.
Well, and like you said, Stan, that keeps a lot of people in that area because of what's available to them there. A lot of people don't have that availability. They've got to, drive a long ways. But I see people move in to that area because of what they have there with the Rainy Break and the refuge there, and the access to it. So it's a great place to live, and it's a great place to raise a family.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
And Jerry is I wanted him just to talk about Rainy Break and Shari Bay. The next person that I've asked that lives in this area is Kelly Scobie. And Kelly, if you'll come up here and take the podium. And Kelly is over from the Black River, Dave Donaldson area. And Kelly's hunted a year or two. And want to get somebody from a different area, different WMA, and maybe a different perspective. Kelly, it's yours.
Stan called me a couple of weeks ago and asked me if I'd share some thoughts and stories about Dave Donaldson. And he wanted me to come to the November commission meeting. And I said, well, it's November, that's duck season. I'm not going to miss that duck season to come to the commission meeting. He said, it's during the split. So here I am. But for some of you may not know, Dave Donaldson is approximately 25,000 acres. The Black River comes out of Clearwater Lake and meanders right through the middle of the Black River. We're unique up there, and talking to some people about duck hunting, and they don't have any water. We always have water. But we have of course, we got Black River, and we have a fork off of Black River that comes back into Black River. And a gentleman by the name of Dave Donaldson, years ago, engineered a flooding system to flood the woods. And we can artificially flood somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 acres. And it's pretty unique. It'd take me a while to describe all this. I'm not going to do that. But he can actually flood on both sides of Black River. And we have water early, which also means that we have lots of folks. But Black River is famous. Dave Donaldson is famous for waterfowl hunting, and the landscape changes, kind of like he said, about a week before duck season. People from all over the country come to Northeast Arkansas and Dave Donaldson to duck hunt, and that's quite an economic boost to towns like Corning, Pocahontas, Walnut Ridge, Paragould, and Jonesboro, and big deal to those folks. Dave Donaldson, in addition to famous for waterfowl, has a healthy deer herd, bobcat, coyote, a lot of squirrels, and matter of fact, I went squirrel hunting 2 or 3 times this year and killed the limit. By the way, the limit's 12, and 12 is a lot to carry. But we have mink, river otter, too many beavers, which causes problems on Dave Donaldson. I mean, they'll make their dams and water will stand way too long. But we also have turkey population on Black River, and it struggles. During the nesting period, the Black River for the last at least 10 or 12 years, flood stage. Well, you know what that does to turkey nesting. And I really think if we ever had 2 back-to-back years, the turkeys would bounce back. I really do. But I grew up in a little community called Beech Grove, and it was about 10 miles from Dave Donaldson. So it's been a part of my life from then till now. I can remember duck hunting with my dad day before the season. I couldn't sleep that night. I mean, I was just so keyed up about going duck hunting the next day. And matter of fact, I'd wake up before the alarm went off. I'd have my duck hunting clothes on, my boots on, ready to go. And we'd go to Dave Donaldson, put a boat in and go where the water was at. And I can remember this. I had a single shot 410. Dad would give me 1 shell. He was smart. He didn't want me to shoot anyone. I said, Daddy, give me more shells. But kind of like Barney Fife, 1 shell. But back in those days, you know, you didn't shoot them in the air. You call those ducks without decoys. We didn't have decoys, and we didn't have waders either, by the way. I had thigh boots. I get wet every time because I'd be looking at those ducks and I'd fall in. But we'd call those ducks in and put them on the water, and they'd always be one old greenhead about 20 feet. And I'd kill it, and boy, I was really proud. Back in those days, squirrel hunting was a big deal. My granddad was a farmer. When it came time for squirrel season, no matter where he was at with the cotton harvest, he'd go shut her down. He'd shut her down. He'd go over there and scout where the squirrels would be. And he'd go pitch a tent. And he and my grandmother and another couple, my cousins, uncles, and whatever, we'd spend a week over there squirrel hunting. And biscuits and gravy, fried squirrel, fried potatoes. I'd gain about 3 pounds every time we were there. But I can remember, learn some life lessons. You don't come into camp with a loaded gun. Sticks with me today. You don't get in the truck with a loaded gun. You unload those things. You know, you can't be too safe with firearms. We all know that. I can remember, the women would fish off the bank and catch bass and brim and crappie and goggle eye back in those days, and we'd have fish fry and all that. Big campfire. We'd sit around there, and of course we didn't have mosquito spray back in those days. And I can remember my granddad, just before we'd go to bed, he'd pull that tent back, and he had a hand spray that said Black Flag on it. I guarantee you it was DDT. He'd go in there and he'd shoot that tent full of that stuff, and we'd go to bed. You couldn't breathe, but every mosquito was dead. Dave Donaldson, it's changed. I've seen a lot of change, and like he said, a lot of people. It's overcrowded. It really is. And the commission, went to 30 days for the non-resident, 10, 10, 10. And that's good for Arkansas residents, and it's also good for the non-residents, because I have friends who only hunt when the non-resident people are not there. And hey, I like non-residents. I've got some really good friends. I hunt with them all the time. But it was necessary, I think, that the commission did that. And there's some people up there now who have mentioned the word draw, and I never thought I'd say that. But I talked to enforcement officer 2 days ago. This year, the first day of duck season, they had 80-something people in one duck hole. That's no good. I mean, that's too many people. It's dangerous, and that's not what duck hunting's about. But especially during the artificial flood, when we have the 7,000 acres. Now, when Black River at Corning gets 10, 11, 12 feet, you've got 20,000 acres, and that spreads people out a little bit. But it is a problem. And again, the commission also. We had a problem over there. If we did get ducks in earlier or before the season, there'd be hunters out there running around with their boats and motors, and ducks need a little bit of private time, not to be disturbed. And they were, running ducks off and keeping the hunters out before the season and during the split. That's a good thing. It helps the ducks to get settled in and makes for better duck hunting for everyone. I'd like to thank the commissioners and Director Austin Booth for their decision to put wells in Lake Ashball. I can't tell you how critical that I believe that Lake Ashball is for waterfowl in northeast Arkansas, for the waterfowl and for waterfowl hunters. And I think it's important for the entire state. I think, ducks imprint. We all have heard the word imprint. Ducks imprint on Lake Ashball. And I think ducks in Ashball, they stay there, but they also move around. I think ducks in Stuttgart know where Lake Ashball's at. I mean, it's a really big deal, and it's important, and we appreciate y'all making that decision. It was a big deal, and Lake Ashball, when it was first built, was I talked to Anne Marie before the meeting, and she's a big bass fisherman.
Yeah.
Lake Ashball was unbelievable. You could catch and release 100 bass a day when it was first developed. And there were some 10-pound bass come out of there. So Lake Ashball is also important for fishing to folks in northeast Arkansas, important for waterfowl, and we appreciate the direction you're going there, and I hope you'll continue to make improvements there on Lake Ashball, because it is a big deal to lots of people. I'd just like to close by saying thank you to the commissioners for your time, effort, and service to manage and to protect such a bountiful natural resource that we are fortunate to have in the great state of Arkansas. Thank you.
Kelly. You talked about hunting with your daddy. So at what age did you get started?
I started probably 7 or 8 years old.
7 or 8
7 or 8 years old.
And
one bullet.
Okay. What kind of duck collar? When did you start with a duck collar?
Well, I was a little older when I was probably 10 or 11 with a duck collar.
So what kind was it?
Well, they didn't buy me one when I was young, but I thought a guy ought to be able to call ducks without a duck call. You got a barrel, and you got your tongue's a reed, so I thought, hey, that ought to work.
Did you ever get to where you could do that?
Well, I'll practice.
Here.
Well, let me hear a little bit.
Get 'em, boys.
You know, I kind of led him into that. I heard it.
That's a pretty good lead in there, Stan.
I can tell you of all the people that I've met in my life, I've never met a Kelly Scobie before. Anybody, Luke, you ever met anybody could do that? I had to do it. We need to start practicing. Hey, we've come to the part here for a great part, which is the staff presentation. Arkansas Game and Fish and Director Booth will give these awards.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we're going to recognize two individuals for their work anniversaries or their career service, as we call them, to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. They're both, one is formerly of Wildlife Management Division, and one is currently of Wildlife Management Division. These two gentlemen together are celebrating 45 years of service to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission this month. The first one is David Luker. David, come on up. David's been with the agency for 20 years and has been serving for a while now within Region 3 of our Wildlife Management Division, which is really focused around Biomeda. But what we're most proud about David for is there's not a job that's too big for him. There's not a job for him that he's not willing to pick up and tackle if it means helping the agency, even if it means that it's not his job. He's been instrumental with where we're going with forest management at Biomeda Wildlife Management Area and other wildlife management areas, helping Rob Willie here and the Habitat team. So let's give a round of applause for David Silver.
You're going too quick.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Old time. Sorry, getting there. Getting faster anyways.
All right, the next recipient has served with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission for more than 25 years now. One of my favorite things about both the Marine Corps and the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is it's very clear that when you walk through the doors that this agency, that the mission of conservation is much bigger than any one individual. That the work of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission and that our ethos is just as defined by the people in the future that we don't know that we serve, and also the people that came before us that we kind of stand on their shoulders in conservation successes. However, there are a number of people in our agency that I would look to that kind of make me think whether that's actually true or not, right? That define our values so much that it's hard to think of this agency without them here, right? And we have these people in every division, but Brad Carner is one of those. He has served as an example to Wildlife Management Division for many years, but as a leader that cares just as much about the mission as he does his people, who's given his entire life to the natural resources now for over 25 years, and somehow miraculously, through many, many, many pots of coffee around the clock, he doesn't let his work come at the expense of his family or his family come at the expense of his work. It has truly been a marvel for me to watch this man serve the agency, serve the people of Arkansas, and I'd ask you to join me in giving Brad Carner, a Campbell Award recipient, a Career Service Award of 25 years.
Maybe not quite. We're lucky to have you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brad. That's glad to get this. That's a long time for you guys to serve or to be a part of this. We need to go now to our staff presentation. Dave Donaldson, Black River WMA, and Luke Naylor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director Booth. He'll be back. So, Tommy and I, Tommy Laird, Chief of Fisheries over here, had a brief moment that we're not entirely sure how we're going to top anything that's gone on before. So we're giving some, I'm Luke Naylor, Wildlife Management Division Chief for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. So we're up here and we have a very major project. We heard a little bit just a minute ago about Black River, Dave Donaldson, Black River WMA, which is one of the massive, in the grand scheme of public lands, one of the very large, highly valuable, they're all valuable, but this is one of those massive places that's a really special little island, as you can see on the map on the left, that indicates all the forested landscape left in the Delta of Arkansas. And we're very proud as a public land management agency to be able to point at it from this scale and say those green blobs, a lot of that has to do with the public land base in this state, both state and federal ownership. And we can't talk about that without mentioning that, of course, there's lots of privately held and managed forested lands as well, but a whole ton of that's in public land, including that big blob farthest to the north up there. So I'm going to set a little context for why we do what we do at Black River and all of our forested wetland, bottomland hardwood forest, wetland WMAs. So we focus on ducks all the time, and I'll talk about ducks, and that is a phenomenal tie you have on, sir. But we have lots of other species. As a wildlife management agency, we have really a mandate to manage for many, many different species, not just the green-headed yellow-billed monster of the marsh, which we all know and love, but we manage for all these different critters. And these big patches we have really are, when we do conservation planning for other species, you look at maps like this for these other species that are a little bit harder to detect. You may hear them a bunch, but you may not see them very often. These public land blocks really anchor these patches for these other critters out there. So I just want to focus on that. The second thing about the mallard itself, right? When we talk about forested wetlands, forests in general, green tree reservoirs, we've got to think back that not every tree is created equal when it comes to, all of them have their place in the landscape. There's no good tree or bad tree on the landscape necessarily, but different species have different values for different types of wildlife. And we think of waterfowl, we focus most of our efforts and our interest on red oak species and perpetuating those species in bottomland hardwood forests because of their food value to waterfowl. And several years ago now, time flies, but this commission supported staff in a major way many years ago, 6 years ago about now, to kind of shift and, well, really formalize and shift what we do with bottomland hardwood forest management and GTRs. We actually put in writing, really about for the first time in the agency's history at a large scale, we said this is what we value, these are our objectives in green tree reservoir management. And it's about long-term sustainable habitats. We shifted our focus that had always been focused on annual provision, oftentimes focused on waterfowl hunting opportunity, which is a very valuable objective to have, and we have not, that is still one of our objectives, but we shifted it to a long-term vision instead of an annual, we're going to do this every year, with less focus on the long term and what it means for habitat and hunting opportunity.
Hey, Luke.
Yes, sir.
Are we doing this 3-year rotational cycle? I know we put this out in print as a notional idea, but are we doing this anywhere?
This is an example. This is a theoretical concept of what a naturally functioning bottomland hardwood system would look like. And so it's not a prescriptive figure. It is in a natural system, spikes and valleys and peaks. That's how these river systems, bios, they all function historically before lots of landscape change and infrastructure was installed. Just an example. Yes, moving forward with some of the changes we talk about for all of our WMAs, the gentleman talked about Shirey Bay and some work going on there. This kind of stuff is going to be part of our future with new management and new infrastructure. All right, I'm going to hit quickly the landscape, the forested landscape at Black River. Rob Willey and his team. Tucker Collins is sitting here, who's been the Northeast Arkansas habitat biologist, forester, and has led a bunch of this work to carry on our forest health assessments, really their forest inventory overall, which also includes a forest health assessment, which we are the only state, only landowner in the country that's doing this type of work on forested landscapes. So I'm not going to read through all those bullets. Just the indication is, yes, like all of our managed bottomland hardwood systems, we have concerns about red oak forest health. We know at Black River there was a major change in red oak forest health 20 plus years ago. Not going to go into all that, but the existing forest has challenges. It's not a dramatic, like, boy, we're worried about things dying tomorrow, like we presented to y'all about Henry Gray Hurricane Lake in some places. Every situation is different, and this one is cause for concern and cause to focus on long-term sustainability, but there's not imminent death on hand at Black River, it doesn't seem. So, and I'm confident Rob and Tucker will wave at me and stop me if I say something wrong. I'm gonna pause right there. All the people involved in this, you met a bunch of the Northeast Arkansas Wildlife Management Division staff yesterday on our field trip. I am the spokesperson for all this stuff. Was as a waterfowl biologist for a while, and now as a chief. I'm not the brains behind this stuff. So we've got the forested side with Rob leading the charge. We've got Jason Jackson in the back, who goes by Buck. He's our redneck hydrologist and everything, moving water and making things good happen for infrastructure. We've got Zach Yancey, who's a local biologist and manager at Black River, and Jason Carbaugh, who's a regional supervisor in this area. Terrence Teal, Jason's the assistant. Terrence, the regional supervisor for this area. Who else am I? Even Mike Cantrell in operations helps us out with this stuff. So lots of people involved. Am I missing something somewhere? Anyway, all these folks helped build this. And Duggar, before he jumped ship, he was the assistant chief in wildlife, involved in a lot of our GTR work. Okay, so location. I pointed out on a map. I'm going to buzz through a couple of these. The very large area. Phenomenal place. Those yellow polygons are the green tree reservoirs that are impounded, levied up systems to have some sort of infrastructure in them in this massive forested landscape, with that blue line being the Black River proper running through. So this is a LiDAR map, so just a digital elevation model showing elevation. So there's a lot of fall through this system. But if you really get down to the middle of it, it's a couple dozen feet maybe, not 100 feet of fall through these areas. These are flat areas that pond water quickly, that water moves through and oftentimes doesn't want to move out of. And that presents a lot of the challenges we have now. So that's what it looks like elevation-wise. You see everything coming out of northeast Arkansas and southeast Missouri and plowing down through the Black River before it heads in toward Pocahontas after meeting up with the current. So this is our infrastructure as of now. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, and you've got all the yellow boxes are structures to the tune of 37 of them to manage 6,000, 7,000 acres of impounded water. And all the orange lines are some sort of levee in the system. So elevation above natural grade. What would have been historic through this ridge and swale sluice system, we levied it up with all these levees. And these little things are an interesting creation that maybe not totally unique to Black River, but maybe there's in highest abundance at Black River, which we call slough plugs. So when water comes in, these sloughs connect to the Black River, and many of these are plugs put in to keep water from flowing back out into the Black River once these things are artificially flooded. 26 miles of levee. This is a real quick schematic of kind of how the water happens now, right? So Little River Dam up here where the river splits. Plug that up, and immediately you have water flowing in, depending on water levels in the Little River, of course, but immediately have water come in, it cascades here, could cascade to the lower island, GTR. These are called siphons. They aren't true siphons, they're pipes under the river. They're nonetheless cool because they're not actually siphons. It's a fascinating engineering feat that Dave Donaldson, as the gentleman mentioned earlier, that this guy created many years ago. He went under the river twice, goes into Upper Reno, goes through here, builds up head, can go into lower Reno depending on how Zach's operating the structures, goes in lower siphons, then goes into the Winchester GTR. This is Lake Ashball, and this is the rest area that's forested, part of Winchester GTR, just north of Lake Ashball. You could call this section 20 the lower Winchester GTR, if you will, and this is how water flows through the system. And then ideally, it's going to come out down here as easily as it comes in up here. Fact is, that's not how it works. it gets plugged up. So when we look, we're working with Ducks Unlimited. Tim Willis is in the room right here, who's a Northeast Arkansas native, by the way. Just happens to work for Ducks Unlimited out of Ridgeland, Mississippi now. And they're working with some engineers and hydraulic modelers who have built maps like this. So this is just a real quick schematic. If you look during a flood event and how water should flow through an area, a naturally functioning system, you should have what we call sheet flow. It just moves through the area, it goes across, it doesn't make these funny twists and turns. Look at things like this, where there's a levee spur in Winchester. That's just one example of an area where water has to go up and around man-made infrastructure. It's similar here, right? We're trying to send all this water that would have sheet flowed out, come in up here, Black River, and sheet flowed all the way across and connected back to the Black River and gone out. It is all stopped. And you see all of it has to go up and around here and got to weave its way around to get out here through this pinch point. And that is a classic story within managed bottom and hardwood forest or green tree reservoirs. That's what we're trying to manage within and do better moving forward. So you can't read that. That's not the point. The point is, these are all the different scenarios that we sent back to the modelers and said, hey, do this, do this, do that. Like fix these structures, change these levees, run all this through your models and tell us what the outcome is. That's a lot of work. In almost all these situations, the best, if we were purely to think only about forest ecology and duck ecology, we would have zero artificial infrastructure across any of our land holdings. That's really, if you were going to go pure just ecological function, that's what you do. So that's where we start. We say, okay, remove everything. What's that do? This down here is an increased downstream flow, which that was a trigger point for our engineers who worry about downstream flow and what it means to downstream communities. So remove everything, a fairly large predicted, these are all predictions, let me be very clear about that. They're predictive increases in flow downstream. All right, so we walk all the way through all this stuff, we come up with a preferred scenario that I'm gonna walk through a little bit down at the bottom that has 28 structures modified, 13 miles of levee impacted, 1,000 acres of artificial, I'll be very clear, artificial inundation flooding reduced, about a half a foot depth reduction, which is a positive thing for foraging ducks and the total amount of acre feet of water you're holding in the complex when it's time to move it out. Downstream flow, total inundation area reduced, smaller storm event right here is these three columns. In a large storm event, the impact is a little bit lower. And the amount of acres reduced, because you'll see as we run through the model scenarios here in a second, the Black River rule is all up there. And frankly, a fair bit of our infrastructure is not that much additive when it comes to water on the landscape during the winter.
Hey, Luke.
Yes, sir.
Before you get into the first scenario, it's oftentimes easy for the public to assume that no work is getting done because there's no yellow equipment out in the wildlife management area. Can you tell us how much time and how much money, in partnership with Ducks Unlimited, it's taken us just to get to this point where we can apply for permitting in January?
Let's see, we started with DU and InSafe. Well, we started with a different hydrologic contractor for a period of time back in 2020, I believe, and then moved on. Worked with DU and InSafe the last 2 years, Buck, Tim? About two full years, Austin, where we've been working on this behind the scenes. There's a lot of survey work that needed to be done most of our WMAs, you might think we have good survey information, we know everything about the landscape and all of our WMAs. We don't. These guys like Dave Donaldson who built this stuff, it was like, we're just eyeballing it, which is pretty fascinating, but we don't have survey information, so that was a ton of time there to just collect that information necessary to run these models. We're doing this on our massive WMAs. We're in the same process at Biometer right now because there's so much going on here that we have called in outside assistance to help us understand what's going on. We're very confident in our ability to manage these systems, but it's always nice to check that for a second, just double check the numbers and have a little outside help on some things. So, all right, so what if you were to define a kind of a new objective for Dave Donaldson and what the preferred scenario would allow us to do? It really seeks to bring Dave Donaldson closer to natural conditions and again focus on sustainable bottom and hardwood forests, and we still want to maintain that ability to provide managed hunting opportunity, although that managed hunting opportunity, like across all of our GTRs, is going to look different than it has in the past. First sub-bullet there, it's a lot of our infrastructure is largely irrelevant. I may sound like I'm contradicting myself in a second. It doesn't add more flooded area on the landscape when the river's up. What it does do is keep things from draining as quickly as they need to when the river goes down. Those are two different considerations, and both are important. All right, so what are they? Again, not going to read through all of those. Those are the items that were on when we first went and said, all right, InSafe, our H&H hydrologic and hydraulic engineering contractor. Here are the items that we would do as part of the preferred scenario. All right, run it through your model. This is the whole list of them. All right, so that's what we asked them to do in the preferred scenario. And I'm going to come back to this as we went through the model results, and we had our folks looking at it. Buck's going back and forth with these folks many times, going back and forth and figuring out and talking with Zach, who's on the area every day, like, okay, what did that result in, and are we okay with that? So we modified this a bit, and I'll come back to that in a second. All right, so this is a map of the preferred scenario. All the red lines are levees that would be removed. The orangish red, however they look like to you out there. All right, so those would be levees removed in this process. I pointed out these down here as obstructions to sheet flow. Those are a couple of good examples of areas that we want water to move across this area, right? And with water stacks through here, through these upper island GTRs, that's a substantial impediment to water moving across this system between the Little Red Fork and the Black River itself. So all these structures, the orange structures would be removed structures. The yellow structures are upsize. When we talk about upsize, we're talking about major upsize. We're not going from a 48-inch to a 60-inch pipe. This is not the kind of project we're doing when we're fixing GTRs. We're going from 48-inch pipes to 18-foot wide bays, like we looked at yesterday afternoon. All right, so all this stuff is removed. Upsize this channel that gets water out the very bottom, the crux of the whole thing, if you will, down here at the very bottom of the granary structure to go out. Structure number 23 on this map, go out to the Black River. That is woefully undersized and is a major pinch point like I showed earlier. Okay, so preferred scenario, what's that look like, Forrest? If you'd hit that real quick. This is going to start playing. I'm going to show, I think only 3 of these maybe, just for sake of time. So we ran these through. This is a low flow. The top is a date. So it's a little hard to see, but you watch that little blue dot bumping up through there. That is, you just passed through November 16th through November 21st. This is in a low flow at Corning Gauge. So we went back and looked at all the gauge data and kind of categorized low flow, medium flow, and high flow based on the historical record. This is 2005, 2006 as an example of one of those years. This is not predictive, prescriptive. This is an example of one year that was categorized amongst all the years as a low flow year, right? So a storm comes in. This assumes a storm comes in, hits, floods it up, and no more rain happens, which we all know is not reality, right? So this is what Black River would look like with the changes I just showed before after a low flow event. All right, so now that's January 10th. It's bumping along. This assumes no more rain happened, which we know, when's the last time that hasn't happened in January or late December? Not very often. The rains come, right? Typically. All right, go ahead. I'll do this. That's me. All right, a high flow event. Forrest, you would? Oop. Next one. Thank you. Same deal. So you see it kind of flatline over there for a while. You're going through November. So this is a high flow event, but the event happened a little bit later in the fall, in this particular year that we grabbed, 2007, 2008. So if you're at Black River, yeah, this is not, the Little River Dam is not closed. It's not forcing water into Upper Island and Lower Island and then through the siphons to Reno and on to Winchester. That's not happening, but rainfall is happening, and we've implemented all the changes I showed on the previous slide. This is now mid-December. No more rain happens. This is just what sets on the landscape. We're now approaching the 1st of January. You see, again, no more rain. I can't say that enough times. The model says no more rain. All right, so it's down. Now I get a little bit of rain in mid-January. System's already a bit charged up. You get a small amount of rain and boom, here it comes right back. Now you're approaching the end of January. And you can see as it pulls on out through February in this scenario, there's another spike in rainfall. So we looked at that, and it ends up you can run those scenarios, and the colors here are water depth. So I mentioned that earlier. So we have some, for habitat and for wildlife, we have some positive changes in overall habitat depth going down a little bit. And so the standing pool of water in these areas, say at the end of the winter, would be lower. All right, so the red, it goes up in lower Reno because you don't have the middle levee. It's actually more water stacking up in the bottom. But we're not overly concerned about that. So, all right, so what we did as primarily Buck and Zach, we're looking at this and really thinking about how the system operates. So we've got the modeling scenario and we've got what we see on the ground when we do stuff. So we combine those. So this is the current state of thinking about what our restoration plan for Black River would be. So it's not necessarily decommissioning the dam. Remove most sluice plugs. We looked at that and we think, hey, like Zach's having to run the siphons, move water around throughout the year. There's some amount of perking that goes on, which Tommy, Lake Ashbaugh, that conversation comes up front and center. There's something going on, we think, with water, falling out of that system, even though it's levied up. Zach's moving water through the system because of the soil types. We're not convinced we need to move totally away from the opportunity and to do that, to provide that water through flow through the system. And the sluice plugs, some of them are such a depth that the assumptions of those model runs, the bottom elevation of those sluice plugs is lower, and would actually, some of that water would move back out. So instead of removing all of them, some of the sluice plugs we're actually going to install manageable infrastructure instead of just a drop. Now it's just a plug of dirt we can't do anything with, and water just stacks up behind it. Some levees in Winchester, big upsizes in those Reno and Winchester structures. That's the big lift, and a lot of levee work, a lot of dirt work. A lot of dirt work in those two structures are big parts of it. A lot of spillway work. I shouldn't de-emphasize that.
Luke.
Yes, sir.
On that levee, just on that, I know talking to Levi and being over there, I know you're going to change some of these levees. Take out some, and then some will be probably added to differently. And as Levi has shown me, they have patched these levees over and over. So on these levees that you're going to have to add to, where will you get the dirt? And is it quite a bit that you're going to have to get to come in there to rebuild into, beside these levees that are there, they've dug and back a track hole now will reach down to the bottom. And some of those levees are so thin, can't even get a truck down them to repair them.
Actually, most of our levee work will be getting rid of dirt because those levees, what we've done, we looked at a little bit on BioView yesterday. So Buck described, you got these levees that don't have a consistent grade, the whole length of a 4-mile levee, and water finds a way. Water always wins, it always wins. And so it finds that low spot and it cuts through it. And what we've done, very, very frankly, as an agency, is try to beat water for years, and we've lost. So we armor, we put riprap, we build it higher. What's that do? It just makes it find another weak spot. We're not doing business that way anymore. We're building levees that water can overtop entirely. We're talking about levees that are 6 inches above full surface elevation of the structure and are 10-to-1 side slopes. So water comes in, it does not have to fight anywhere. We want it to overtop the levees. By design, we're gonna build levees that get overtopped every year.
So the water's not gonna be as deep out in the woods. It's gonna be
Yep.
able to go over the levees.
Over the levees.
And it's not gonna be a weak spot. It's gonna be
Right.
that levee from one end to the other is gonna be the same elevation.
Except these spillways we put in, and those will be reinforced, because we're telling water, yeah, we want you to go there, in some cases.
So-
Like at Winchester, the far west side of Winchester, right? But- So we're gonna go armor some of those, because there's a ton of water coming out the bottom of that.
So for duck hunting, what depth of water are y'all trying to hopefully maintain on the majority of the woods that's out there?
Yeah, so we're not going to go in and flatten anything in the interior of these units, right? So there's going to be variation that exists now, it's still going to exist. I mean, for a duck to feed, you're looking at a foot of water, right? But we know it's going to be deeper than that across various portions of it. The bottom end of Winchester is still going to be deeper than that, right? So you're talking 6 inches to 18 inches is what you're trying to manage for on most of these places, really. Yeah, but there's boat lanes people use, those sorts of things are still going to exist.
Well, but Luke, kind of like what we said 2 years ago with Biomeda only, dropping boards to 178.5. That's only what we're artificially manipulating.
Correct.
And we can engineer as much as we want to, but ultimately the depth of Dave Donaldson will be determined less by us and more so what the Black River provides. Correct.
And the last video I'll show will highlight that. When the water comes in and our infrastructure is gonna have it 6 to 18 inches, right? When the river comes up, it's gonna overtop all of that and it's gonna get deeper where it gets deeper, right? So just a structure example, they've gone back and forth. You looked at this yesterday. This is a 6-bay structure. That would be the crane roost, the bottom southwest corner structure at this point. It's kind of what we're looking at. How wide is that one? About 8?
That goes down to, about
110 foot wide. So we looked at 15 and 18 foot structures yesterday. Okay, so here's at the end of it. So pause that just a second if you would for us. Just want to do a quick setup. So we wanted to look at this and look at the preferred scenario and say, I'll let people understand something recent in their memory. So we picked actual Black River flows for the winter of 2021-22. And that's what this shows is if we have implemented our preferred scenario and that had been done in the winter of 21-22, this is what it would have been predicted to look like. That makes sense? So it's real world with an artificial, we've changed the landscape. All right, thank you, Forrest. So this is through November 11th. If you can read that top one, it's tough to see. I'll kind of narrate. A little tiny bit of rain there. That's 11/16, 11/21, 11 November. Approaching the 1st of December. And when the blue starts getting darker here in a second, to Austin's point, that's deeper. Just get to Mr. Chairman's question, when it gets darker, that's what you're getting at. All right, so now we're right at Christmas. And you see Winchester, the Winchester GTR, the former Island GTRs, they start getting deeper up there. Now the 1st of January, January 10th. See, from mid-January, approaching January 20th now. And now we're at the end of January. Okay. All right, so what are we looking for as a timeline? We're kind of functionally complete with 30% engineering design plans. Our next hard target date is January 31st to have 60% plans complete and permit applications submitted simultaneously by the end of January 2024. I'm going to jump to the next bullet. So, receive permits, that's a question mark. We do not directly control that process. So that's late fall. Hopefully it's a 9-month process. If we get really lucky, it could be a 6-month process. If we're unlucky, it could go longer than that, which we don't want to talk about. So it's let's say 6 to 12 months. So we're talking about winter of 2025, select a contractor, summer of 2025, begin construction. The last couple of years have been great construction years. Who knows what we're going to get in the future and how long it's going to take, depending on water levels. Forest management will be guided by what we get done with hydrology improvements and what the landscape will allow us to do. Any questions about that? I believe that's the last slide.
Luke, you know, I've only had 30 months of this, but that's probably about 29 or 30 months in advance, a preview of what this public group has seen of this. I'm just so impressed with the amount of work that's gone into this, and with the modifications, it appears to me you've really tried, and the team have tried to boost the best chance of long-term sustainable forest with giving us the maximum amount of hunter opportunity.
Yeah, we made, and I say we, it's mainly Buck and Zach, like, kind of looked at it, made some decisions, like, you know, we're not completely comfortable just blowing out all those sleeve plugs and seeing what happens, right? But we have to be very careful that as we install infrastructure, it's going to come with a focused commitment to long-term management that is different than what it is now, right? It's still, because we have this infrastructure, doesn't mean that early flooding, guaranteed water, that's still not, we don't have that at any GTR other than this, as the gentleman mentioned, right? So that's going to change, but yes, we have modified, we've looked at it, it's like, hey, we don't want the old Winchester GTR to perk all winter, we don't have an opportunity to reinforce it, right? So, yeah.
Let me follow up just real quick with a question to that. You know, the public also, I think, needs to be aware, in your opinion, and I haven't asked you this before, but was this a flawed design by Dave Donaldson, or were we in a time where a couple of years ago we saw the water overflow I-40 for the first time in its history, and we see these flood systems taking more water than they ever have? What's your opinion?
It was not a flawed system based on the objectives of the time. It was a phenomenal system based on the objectives of the time. We just now know that long-term, predictable, it's going to flood up every year before tree dormancy. It is not sustainable. We just got so much evidence of that. It's indisputable at this point that doing that stuff does not work with sustainable bottomland hardwood forests. And to your point, we're modeling all this stuff in a time of pretty wet conditions. And none of us know if 20 years from now, it's going to be a drier 10 to 20 year phase. I guess the good news is that what we're building, like, if it does get dry, well, fine. We've overdone it. But if it stays wet or gets wetter, we're set for it. I'd hate to go the other direction and just plan all this during a dry time when we're thinking, yeah, it's going to be small stuff, right?
Let me add to this just a little bit, because I've leveled a bunch of ground and did surveys and levees and stuff like that. Dave Donaldson was 50 years ahead of his time. What he did was an absolute marvel that not anyone else could have touched or had the knowledge or the foresight to have seen this. He was 50 years ahead of his time. And just till 15 or 20 years ago, we would have probably come in there and done the exact same thing that he did 50 or 70 years ago. So unbelievable. But now we have a little more stuff, and here we are on down the road a little ways, and now we're doing something that's going to be really different that we think will last for maybe the next 100 years possibly. That's a long term with what, things have just changed, but absolute marvel what he did.
Just real, yeah, in 20 seconds, because last question, we're pressed for time, but just how much consideration, I know you've given a lot,
just real quickly what you know, and if you just have no idea. What's the impact between 2025 and 2030 on hunter ground ability? Like in the middle of all this construction, how much of an impact is this going to have to available hunting areas?
The river's still gonna come up, and it's still gonna flood the place.
Okay.
So we're gonna have infrastructure out, open like we've done in Hurricane.
Right, so we don't anticipate a tremendous amount of land being taken away for.
We still can't
for
stop the
impact.
river.
Right.
Right, we won't be operating infrastructure purposely holding it during the whole construction phase, but it's gonna be like Hurricane's been the last few years. We're in active construction, all the structures are open, like the data you saw yesterday. When the flood waters peaked, here came the people and they hunted.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's what we hope for.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to close the wildlife management
We
area
don't.
or anything like that.
Thank you.
But we want to get the project done as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So
We don't.
like, if we, just using Hurricane, if we could do work on that water control structure while duck season's open because the river's letting us do it, then we're going to get it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I think probably the one thing we could really find a way to market better is continual, transparent communication, so that everybody kind of understands. If they know, hey, we got to get airboats in, or whatever the case is. If they know that going in, it's hard to fuss back that I went out there and this happened. Well, it's on the website. We know it's going. Here's the progress, and I think that's all any hunter can really ask for, is just to be informed ahead of time. And I think we do a good job of that.
Like Conway, we did the website, the update. Y'all gonna do an updated website?
Yeah, we've been working with communications, and our website and our new website, we have a projects page where, whoever's out on those projects, go to Google Photo link that links to that page. You can go get update progress photos. Our job is to keep pushing that out, because people, even I forget it's there, right? So we gotta keep pushing, reminding people that information is there.
Okay.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
Any other questions? Any other questions before Luke sits down? Thank you, Luke. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation by Tommy Laird on Lake Asphalt.
Director, Commissioners, appreciate the time to come here to talk about Lake Asphalt. Everybody realizes that we had some issues with Lake Asphalt. It's on the south side of Black River. You saw it in the presentation that Luke gave. It's tied into the Winchester Creek, and I'll explain that whole process. Lake Asphalt is, on the south side of Black River WMA. It's about 12 to 15 miles northwest of Pocahontas. It's small fisheries. We've had Lake Asphalt has been in existence since 1981, and since it was first built, it's always had water issues. And during my presentation, I'm going to show you a timeline, some of the issues that have happened over the last 4 years, when it really came to light in early October, some of the short-term things that we did to help alleviate that, and hopefully some of the long-term plans. This is the aerial photograph that basically shows Lake Asphalt back around mid-September. As you can see, it's really, really low. A lot of the bank around the side, the bottom of the lake will show. This is the south access. And you can see the water is really not very easy to even launch your boat through. And you can see a lot of the bottom's exposed. This is Black River here. This is point of work. This is Black River here over on the north side. Okay, something's going on, sorry about that. And that's where it gets its main water. When asphalt was originally built in 1980, the thought concept was it didn't have a water supply. And you saw in Luke's presentation how we flood the WMA, and as water fills back into the Winchester, as water fills back into the Winchester GTR, the lake was originally designed that they'd open the floodgates or the drain on the northeast side of the lake, and water would backfill into Lake Asphalt, and it'd all be gravity fed. There wasn't a water supply other than that. A little bit more information. Asphalt was mainly a largemouth bass and bluegill fisheries. I started my career in the early 90s out at the Corning Hatchery, so I spent a lot of time on Lake Ashball. Lake Ashball, as you heard from the gentleman earlier this morning, was a really good bass fisheries, and it was well known for its bluegill fishing. I can remember when I first started my career, myself and Chuck Long, you heard that name drop earlier by the doc when she talked about that. We fished over here, and there was really good bluegill fishing during the spawn. They would go up into this arm right here that's exposed and make beds, and you could fish those beds and really catch the bluegill. Surprisingly, it had a pretty decent warmouth fisheries. I looked over the historical datas for our lake reports, and it had a pretty good warmouth fisheries too in the lake, which is pretty uncommon in a lake. And at the time when they built it, Lake Ashball was designed to be 12 foot deep. This is looking at the north side, and I wanted to show you this. This is the Winchester Creek right here that feeds the Winchester GTR. This is where the drain is on this side, and the water went back into the lake. And this is also an aerial photograph in September that shows the same conditions from the south side. It's taken at the same time. But that's how the water, Lake Ashball got its water. Now this is just kind of a timeline of some of the concerns on Lake Ashball. You can see right after it was built in 1982, they started documenting low water. The lake never filled up to its full capacity. So that first year they went in and put a relift pump there on the northeast side, and it had a power unit in it, and it would fill the lake on up, and it pumped about 7,200 gallons per minute. But it was unfiltered water, it was raw water, so they were pumping right out of the Winchester Creek. So any incidental fish that they got, bluegill, green sunfish, yellow bass, bullheads, they would pump into the lake. And from about 1983 to 2002, every year it was documented that we had unseasonably dry weather. And it was just a basic loop. What had happened is the GTR, you saw it, loops would fill up in November. It would have water through about the end of March. And while that was going on, we could pump from the relay pump over into the lake. So the lake would be filled up, and then through the summertime, it would leak down and get low. And this is a never-ending cycle each year. So up in the winter, decrease through the summer through evaporation until the cycle just repeated itself to the next year. And in 2000, fisheries biologists first documented yellow bass. And a lot of people don't know about yellow bass, but yellow bass are very prolific spawners, a pretty aggressive predator. They're competing with the bass species for forage. So what you have is you have a bass population that was fairly good up until that point in time, and then it went to poor or fair because they're competing for the same food source, and they're not as healthy, don't get as conditions is not as strong. So in 2002, the biologists decided to do a lake reset. It's kind of like what we're doing on Conway right now. We're fixing to do a lake reset. We go in, eradicate the fish. We use a chemical called rotenone at the time. Rotenone would wipe out the fish. We'd go back in and restock the fish after this was done. And at that time, it was decided that, hey, we'd make some other improvements. They improved the north boat ramp. They installed a filter that would help alleviate that incidental fish that we were pumping into the lake on the northeast side. And then we also drilled the first deep water well that's on the southwest corner. It's currently there, and we're pumping from it today. And that started in 2002. And you can see in 2003, of course, we had somebody from the public that went in and did us a little bit of harm there. They opened the floodgate, and yellow bass got right back into the lake. So we're right back to where we were. Shortly after that, I'm sure the relift pump lived through its life expectancy. We replaced it with what was called a water hog system in 2006. We entered in a contract with Water Hog to pump up our lakes for us. That system pumped about 30,000 gallons per minute. So we could top up the lake really quick. So we'd pump through April, and then our deep water well that we had installed would hopefully alleviate some of that decrease in the water through the summer months. That was the plan. We kept the water hog contract up until 2021, and this is probably where we made a mistake with Ashball. The water hog contract had doubled in price 2 times over that life cycle, and it was decided by the Fisheries Administration to let that contract expire. And we were hopeful that, we could alleviate some of the pressure at the time with the deep water well, but that was not the case. So when April came around, the lake was already low. So when it went through the seasons of the summer, it decreased more and more. And until what happened in 2023. And I'm going to quote some of the directorate in Austin. Austin said in his 2-year career here with the agency, there was not an issue that was probably where he got more contact from state legislature, the public, from senators than Lake Ashfall, a little small lake in northeast Arkansas. And the reason for that is people are concerned about the fisheries. There's not a lot of fishing opportunities in northeast Arkansas, but on the flip side, it's used in the wintertime as a duck rest area. So we had a lot of calls from duck hunters that were concerned about the low water. Our ducks going to have some place to rest. So what did we do in the short term? We immediately had all hands on deck. We had staff from wildlife, fisheries, operations. I can tell you, I was in Little Rock a couple of times, and there were some pretty tough discussions going on. It was heated, a lot of people together trying to come up with short-term solutions. So what we did immediately is we turned on the well. And if y'all have ever been to Lake Ashball, on the west side, there's that borrow ditch that kind of borders it. We set, Wildlife Management let us borrow a relay pump. We set it up in that borrow ditch and started pumping into Ashball immediately. As you can see here, it's just some slides. We got about 1,400 to 1,500 gallons per minute for that. We had about 2,500 gallons a minute from the well that we turned on. That's about 18 acre-feet of water that we were pumping in Ashball per day. Now, that sounds like a lot, but when you're trying to fill up a 440-acre lake that probably has leaking issues that perks down either through the levee or down into the water table, it's not a lot of water. We also had Zach Yancey come in, Zach Brown come in, and Zach, we immediately decided to put in 2 additional wells. He contracted out and got the well pads built, the roads going into it. We solicited for bids from like 4 or 5 different contractors to drill these 2 wells, and in a matter of days, I'm talking like a week, we had well drillers on site and they were drilling this well. And for state government, that's unheard of. I'm just going to tell you, from the point of October 2nd to when we got the wells and started pumping was 25 days. That's unheard of for state government to move that fast. We also had to coordinate after we got the wellheads in with Clay County Electric. And initially they told us it might be 3 months before 2 to 3 months before they could have somebody to come out to see if we could get electricity here. Well, again, we moved, we overcame some pretty high obstacles to get them there in a few days. And what originally they told us might cost a couple $100,000, they decided they would come in and they would run electricity, and there's no cost to us to get the 3-phase electricity to the wellheads.
Tom, I can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. I'll talk
You're
louder.
looking up there, but.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And this is the finished product of the wells. We've got 2 additional wells that cost about $30,000 each. They pump about 3,000 gallons per minute each. So right now we've got going into the lake 8,500 gallons, which is about 38 acre-feet of water per day. So I want to show you this. This was taken on Monday, this aerial photograph, and you can see the difference in what I showed you earlier. It's filled up to the end of the access. A lot of the bank is filled up too, and you can only see right here in the middle one little spot where the bottom's showing. The lake has come up since October 2nd about 15 inches. Now that sounds like a lot, but we still got leakage problems going on. What are we going to do long term? And the plan is we've contracted, or we've entered into an agreement with Terracon to come in and do some geotechnical work to see what kind of soils that we have in the levee, and it'll tell us if the leakage is occurring in the levees or if it's occurring in the bottom of the lake. This will give us an idea and a plan for the future, what direction we need to head. Mike Cantrell and I went up there yesterday. I know most of the group went out to the WMA. We went to Lake Ashball and we wanted to lay eyes on it. And this was going to be the end of my presentation, and I was going to take questions at this time, but it just so happened that Terracon was there when we got there yesterday afternoon. And I just threw a couple more slides in here. I mean, this is new technology. It's called CPT testing. It's called cone, am I getting this right? Penetration testing. And it's not like normal geotechnical where they take a soil sample and back to the lab to see what's there. They've got a rod that they drive down into the ground, and that rod, through pressure and resistance, will tell you exactly what soil type you got there, if you've got water there, if you've got leakage occurring. And they will have this done, they said, by today, rain willing. So we'll be able to get this data back and make a decision really quick. And with that, I'll entertain any questions y'all have about Lake Ashball, any of the short-term, long-term plans, anything like that. I know I haven't given a lot of details about the long-term, but the idea is we need the geotechnical before we can make the decisions on how to move forward on this lake.
Do you think you'll have to drain it if you're gonna fix it? You are talking about doing another levee through there and decreasing the size of the lake, weren't we?
We could, there's all that possibility. We could leave it the way it is.
Depending
We
on
could
where
drain
it's
it down.
dipping
You heard Luke mention there's a lot of topsoil that they're gonna take these levees out that's gonna become available in the next year. We could incorporate that into the levees. We could move the levee if we need to, but we can't make that decision until we get the geotechnical, to be honest with you.
Tommy?
Yes, sir.
If we had siltation in here, like we've had at Lake Conway, every lake gets over 10, how's this one?
No, and the reason for that, this doesn't have a watershed whatsoever. It's a 3-levee lake. The only little bit of water it gets is coming in from the south side, and that's the minimum. You know, it's farmland all around it. It's got levees, so it's get rain runoff and whatever we pump into it, or comes from the GTR. Yeah. Thought process is historical data from the biologists. They think the leakage is occurring kind of on the southeast side. You can see where that shallow water was. There's a lot of silt and sand in there historically when they built the lake. Not silt, but more like sand. And they think that's where it's breaking down, if it's not going through the lake.
You have to run the pumps 24
Yeah.
hours?
Pumps are having to run 24 hours.
Now, for 4 weeks, 4 weeks. That's not a huge long time.
No.
Maybe for 5 weeks or whatever it takes. Tommy, 2 things. One.
Yes, sir.
Is I've got fields on Black River, and I level them and farm dries, and I would no more get them pumped up, come back a day later and the water gone. And, you know, there's just sand bars underneath the ground that leach into the river. And while it can be in July, and I can look at my 80-acre field that's pumped up, that I can go out to the riverbank, and the river will be 20 foot down, but all in that bank, I see pores of my water coming out in the Black River, and I can't stop it. This right here is a huge, huge little bit of a problem. I don't know that you could spend enough money. This is just my opinion. I don't know that you can test and do all that. I don't know that you could ever spend enough money to stop that lake from leaching. I don't know that you could. The other thing that I want to add to that is how, what Kelly said back a while ago. You know, that lake is years and years and years of old ducks bringing young ducks down, getting out there in that buckbrush, and then when they leave there, they could head to Stuttgart or Louisiana or wherever they're headed to. But imprinting is so, so very important. And that lake, when no other ducks was in northeast Arkansas, they was either there or possibly over at Big Lake. But that lake is so important, and there's times that, you know, if you're a duck hunter, we'll be out duck hunting, and we may look up and see 20 or 30 ducks, and that's not unusual. But there's times when we will see 2,500 or 3,000 ducks. We know exactly where they come from. They got up off of Ashball. When you see a big bunch of ducks like that, and I just want to say this, that I hope we don't ever leave Ashball not pumped up, so that when these old ducks bring these young ducks down, right there's a main point that they come to. Yeah. It is forever been a main point.
And I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. Yesterday, we went there for the group. there's probably 200,000 ducks on the lake. It's unbelievable. I've
built
never
in.
seen anything like it.
And they will fly. You know, there's been times we didn't kill ducks. And then
And I'm probably being conservative.
they're all that
It could've been more.
asphalt. They're all, well, okay. But sooner or later, those ducks will go. It's just that important. And we need to be conscientious of this migration.
And that's why we did what we did on the short term to get it filled up a little bit more. Now, the ducks, it didn't matter how deep the water is, they like shallow water too. But public opinion was we needed to fill up, go for the revive, and we hit the ground running. Hey, there's a couple guys that are here today I want to bring attention to that were instrumental in this. The first one is Zach Brown. Zach is a regional contract coordinator here in Northeast Arkansas. That man spent every day on asphalt from October till we got the well in it. And he's to be commended. And Zach Yancey was instrumental in this too, from the Wildlife Management Division that helped us set up the relay pump and get the ground running before he rolled out on us in the coming, which we all wanted to go on. But those two guys, plus the two people that presented yesterday in the Fisheries Division, Allison and Brett, were instrumental in all hands on deck to get this done and accomplished in a short time period. So I want to thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we're running a little behind, so we're going to move on. At this time, we have Director Boots, the director's report.
It's always a really good thing when I'm crunched for time up here because that means we've had a really good meeting. It also means that you get to hear from me less. So I am going to make this brief. And really, there's just a handful of people that I want to recognize today, both for what they're doing for the agency, but also what they've done to make this week an unforgettable one for us. The first place I would like to start is our enforcement division. Everybody often longs for November when they think about the best times in college football, the best time for deer hunting and duck season opening too. But for our enforcement division and all the men and women that place themselves in the line of duty, November is when their Super Bowl starts. Because the more people that are outside, the more we're called to support and defend the natural resources and also support public safety as well. And so they're working incredibly hard right now while people are outside hunting and fishing. They're outside working and they're leaving families at home while they do it. And so I wanted to not only recognize that and reassure them that it's not lost on us, but also just recap some of the things that our enforcement division was able to accomplish just in the month of November. Our canine units assisted in 77 Arkansas game and fish violations that resulted in over $20,000 in fines. Our game wardens issued citations for the following major violations: 27 hunting out of season tickets, 21 night hunting, 29 road hunting, 5 for hunting waterfowl over bait, 26 for hunting over bait on a wildlife management area, 4 for hunting on a waterfowl rest area, 4 for the prohibited take of alligator, 8 non-residents in possession of a resident license, 35 for hunting without permission, 31 for failure to tag or check game, 12 aiding or abetting a class 3 violation or higher, 7 season or bag limit restrictions, and 2 hunting without a valid license. In addition to that, we had game wardens that worked 2 boating accidents and 2 hunting accidents, in addition to major investigations going on throughout the state. Again, that was not this year, that was this month in between November 1st and this Tuesday. So a round of applause, please, for enforcement. Someone else that I would like to recognize who was here yesterday, and I don't see him in the crowd today, which makes me sad, is a member of our research division, Dr. Chris Middaugh. Chris, for anyone that's met him, is an incredible mind. You spend just a little bit of time around Chris, and he makes you feel insecure because he just radiates brilliance. But what's most important about Chris, for purposes of today, is a couple years ago, we started putting a major emphasis on competitive grants and how the agency pursues mostly federal grants, but also all the different kinds of grants that are out there. And so, I think it would have been early to mid 2022, we finally selected a competitive grants writer. And in 6 months, she brought in over $1 million to the agency. Well, at about that time, she decided to leave the agency at the exact same time that we had an enormous grant opportunity. She left the agency, and we didn't have that competitive grants writer capacity. And Dr. Chris Medall, who is a incredibly brilliant guy, an incredibly busy guy, helping the agency support its research projects throughout the state, went the extra mile and assumed her duties to help the agency apply for two competitive grants. And through his efforts, working throughout the agency, but again, taking that initiative to see a job that needed to be done that he didn't have to do, through his initiative, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission was awarded $5.4 million in competitive grants through America the Beautiful. So thank you to Chris. That's a perfect example of something that he didn't have to do within the description of what his job was, that everybody should seek to follow his example, and because this agency is better for it as well. I want to recognize the legislators that were here. I see Representative Woolridge here. Thank you for being here, sir. And I did see Justice of the Peace Longmire, Senator Sullivan, Representative Robb, Representative Ladyman, and Representative Milligan. One of the reasons that we love coming to various parts of Arkansas when we get out of Little Rock for our commission meetings is that we hope the public takes away just how much y'all's communities mean to us. We would welcome a spirited debate on whether we love your community as much as you do, but whether it's Lake Ashbaud, Dave Donaldson, Showery Bay, Rainy Break, other than maybe South Arkansas, there's not a part of Arkansas that is receiving as much game and fish attention as Northeast Arkansas is, and we're not apologetic about it. So thank y'all for y'all's support and for being here this week. I also want to recognize Cody Walker and Elizabeth Kimball. What an amazing story from Dr. Patel this morning. I mean, if we didn't have action items to take care of when I get done running my mouth, I would have said we should just end the meeting there and go home. And it's easy for us to marvel at her love for the outdoors, the interest that she had in it, the commitment with which she pursued it, but she would not have had the resources or the passion available to her if it weren't for people like Cody and Elizabeth. There's people like them in Northeast Arkansas and every corner of Arkansas that see what the outdoors means to people, and to see this really big disconnect between what we get to enjoy, know how to enjoy, are comfortable doing it, and all these people that aren't. And if it weren't for y'all's commitment and y'all's recognition, even when recognition doesn't come, if it weren't for y'all, then she wouldn't be here today telling that story. I also want to thank a group of people in our agency that seldom get recognized hardly at all. All right. And it's our licensing division. All right. This is not only peak season for our game wardens, but it's also peak season for the hardworking men and women in our agency that are responsible for making sure y'all have a license on your phone or in your wallet. It's not a surprise to anybody that this has been a challenging year for us when it comes to licensing, and it has fallen on the shoulders of about 15 to 30 people that are mostly in Little Rock or in our regional offices. What does this look like? It looks like them not getting to take their kids hunting because they're answering the phone trying to get people licenses. It looks like them making pots of coffee throughout the night so they can check game and try to get caught up over the phone or over a laptop before the next wave begins at 6:30 the next morning. Now, this has been a very encouraging exercise for me to watch our agency pull together, whether it's enforcement or operations or education, people just willing to come to the table and say, hey, I've got capacity and I want help right now. As encouraging as that exercise has been, I have to recognize Susan Porter, her team, IT, and all the incredible work and long nights that they've had to put up with over the past 6 to 8 weeks. So a big round of applause for them as well. All right, also want to thank Rebecca Anton. This is our second meeting on the road this fiscal year, and she set an incredibly high bar for us in Ponca, and she certainly exceeded it with this event. It's easy for us to look at a packed agenda and just move seamlessly from one event to another, but it takes a lot of work to get this many moving parts over the course of 3 days in a wonderful town like Jonesboro or Clover Bend, and it has been an unforgettable time here. And again, none of that would have happened without Rebecca. So thank you, Rebecca. And lastly, and certainly not least, I want to thank Chairman Jones and Jan. Y'all have been such wonderful hosts. It's something that y'all have a reputation for, but in no way has that left this experience here lacking just as we expected it from you. At every single opportunity, y'all have just underscored what Northeast Arkansas means to y'all, what the university means to y'all, what the natural resources mean, what this agency means. And just thank y'all for being the absolute best host that we could possibly ask for.
Thank you, Director Booth. And, before we move on, just a couple other things. Yesterday, I just wanted to tell Jason Carval and Buck Jackson that we enjoyed. Y'all did a great job. Where you at, Buck? Did a great job with showing us around. It looked great. The new structure that you did, we're excited about those. I just wish we had the money. We look at those old structures that are rusted out and you can't control water one way or the other, and then you see this new structure and you put it in and it's going to be able to move water in and move water off. And I know y'all are proud of getting that, and just as quick as we can, we want to change our infrastructure. We really know that we need to do this. So thank y'all. And Rebecca, I had you down on my list, but he's already said thank you. So I'm going to skip over you right now. All right, let's move on to our committee meetings, and we'll go through these pretty quickly. Need the reports from Wednesday's committee meeting, and Chair of Regulations Committee, Commissioner Anne Marie Doremus. Will you give us this report?
Well, Chairman Jones, thank you very much. The Regulations Committee met yesterday. We had 3 discussion items. Brett Leach presented the WMA Waterfowl Hunter Use Survey. And then Brett Timmons showcased the work of the Alligator Guard Management Team and the future of alligator guard management throughout our state. Allison Asher presented a paddlefish population assessment on Pool 13 of the Arkansas River. We had no action items, no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Doremus. Let's go to Education. Commissioner Bill Jones, would you give us that report?
Yes, we had one discussion item. Cody Walker and Elizabeth told us about how the Jonesboro Nature Center is implementing the R3 plan. We talked about, all their hunting, fishing opportunities, what they're doing in education and everything. Also, the fantastic opportunities that they gave, over 1,100 opportunities with 54,000 participants. But all this to be said, when Elizabeth talked to us about what Dr. Patel had done with the Nature Center, that summed it all up. I mean, that was all it in a nutshell, and it's probably one of the best stories I've heard in the 18 months that I've been here. So hats off to the Nature Center for what they've done, and they've done an unbelievable job, and think how many more people are out there that would like to be led in this direction. We had no action items, we had no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Let's go to Commissioner Dr. Michelle Evans-White, Chair of the Research Review Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Research Review Committee met yesterday, and Rob Riley and Dr. Christian Dodd discussed a recent pilot project concerning potential that came about exposure on WMAs within the Arkansas Gulf region. We had no action items, no new business, and no old business.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans White. Next, we'll go to Commissioner Neely with the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, we had a couple of discussion items. Pua Lee presented her financial status report, looked good, and then Pua also followed up with annual legislative audit findings from fiscal year 2022. We did have one action item. Garrett Duggar presented us a minute order requesting a $1.5 million budget increase for the purpose of delivering conservation practices for habitat improvements on private lands in Arkansas. These funds will come from the Restricted Reserve Fund. This received a unanimous do pass. There was no new business, no old business, when we adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Neely. Next, we'll have Property Management, Commissioner Rob Finley.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. We had no discussion items yesterday. We had one action item. Tommy Laird presented a minute order requesting approval to purchase 3 boats to replace existing worn-out boats for use by the district biologists for management and sampling of fish species across the state. Commissioner Finley recused himself of the vote due to having an ownership interest in the Supreme Manufacturing LLC. The committee gave a unanimous do pass. There was no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Finley. Last, we have Personal Governance, Commissioner Philip Tappan.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. We had one discussion item. We had a legal report from General Counsel Jim Goodhart. We had no action items, no new business, no old business. There was an executive session. We came back to report that there had been no action taken, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Tappan. Now let's go to the business items being brought before the commission. Item 6A is the budget increase for the Conservation Incentive Program. Garrett Duggar, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Director Booth, Commissioners. I'm excited this morning to bring you a minute order for your consideration. I'm asking for a budget increase of $1.5 million to fund a new program that the Private Lands Habitat Division will stand up in January. It's called the Conservation Incentive Program, and this $1.5 million, if approved today, would be going to landowners to do wildlife and fisheries habitat improvement on their properties, and also work on invasive plant and animal species over the next calendar year. In September, we requested $3.5 million from the supplemental appropriation from the Department of Finance and Administration, and in October we were granted that request by the peer committee of the Arkansas Legislative Council. And so what I'm asking for today is a $1.5 million budget increase for fiscal year 24, and then we'll budget the rest of that $2 million through the fiscal year 25. And with that, I'll take any questions.
This item requires the approval from the Budget Committee. Commissioner Neely, was this approved in the Budget Committee?
Received unanimous do pass.
I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. The motion is approved. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Next item, 6B, is the fisheries boat purchase. Tommy Laird, you have the floor.
Thank you, Commissioner Chairman. Appreciate it. As I mentioned yesterday, I brought a minute order for your consideration. Our fiscal department is asking to purchase 3 fiberglass river boats to continue fisheries management and conservation across the state of Arkansas. Fully disclosure here, these fiscal basically submitted sealed bids 2 separate times, and both times we got 1 bid, and it's from Supreme Manufacturing for these boats. Capital equipment items have already been approved by the commission, and usually we don't do a minute order, but for full disclosure, we're doing one because we have ties to the commission. So I would like to ask for your approval for that minute order.
Thank you. This item requires approval from the Property Management Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved by the Property Management Committee?
Yes, sir, it was.
I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, Tom. That concludes the committee meetings business. Is there any new business that we need to discuss? Is there any old business that anyone needs to bring up we need to discuss? Director, no need for executive session today. Before I dismiss this meeting, we always just take a minute or two and start with, let's start down there with Brandon. Brandon, we usually have comments from commissioners before we leave, so Commissioner Brandon Adams.
Well, I just first off want to thank you, Stan, and Jan for your hospitality. It's been amazing. But just Dr. Patel's story is really cool, and the fact that I know she left, but what you've done with her is amazing. And I wrote down she used percussion caps in her speech, and I don't know that I've ever even said that. So it's pretty amazing that she started in July and is using percussion caps. So good job.
I noticed that too, Brandon.
Good.
Philip?
Chairman Jones, again, I'll echo what Commissioner Adams said. Y'all hosted a wonderful party. Thank you. And commission meeting, you and Jan. But the community in Northeast Arkansas, just incredible to see. We've had multiple mayors here, the police chief, our representatives, but the general community and just how supportive you all have been for the work that we're doing at Game and Fish, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Commissioner Doremus?
Stan, I want to say that since I've joined the commission, or well, before I joined the commission, I'd never actually been to Jonesboro, Arkansas, and I'm ashamed to say that being a proud Arkansan, but I've visited up here probably a dozen times now. We've been up here for 2 meetings, and I just want to thank you for making that happen, because if it wasn't for our friendship and, of course, serving together on the commission, that it may have never happened. And it's learning about this whole area and the experience that I've gotten to experience has made, I think, me a better commissioner. I think it's made all of us just open up our eyes to a new part of the world. So thank you. We owe that to you.
Stan, to follow up again with what everyone has echoed is the hospitality that you and Jan have unfolded up here, unparalleled. I keep saying that we're setting a new high bar every time we go on a road trip, and you've really lost it. Last night, for those that were able to attend the barbecue, that was some of the best barbecue I've ever been. And then we had one of the best entertainment following that barbecue that everybody got to see. Just a great show from a very talented musician. And you and Jan orchestrated all that, planned all that, not just last month or 2, but probably a year out. I mean, y'all really have put a lot of heart and soul into this. The way you bring the community in, and they all get to talk and represent your heart for this community, and it inspires all of us. So, again, thank you so much for all that. The hard work that we, as the commission out here, it was great to get to see all that and to highlight this on this trip. So it's been a great one. Can't wait to see what we'll get into in the next few months. I know you've got other good trips planned.
Dr. Michelle?
Well, Stan and Jan, thank you so much for being such incredible hosts. Thanks to Arkansas State and Jonesboro for welcoming us in and teaching us about your land and your waters. And just want to again raise up all the employees at Arkansas Game and Fish for going that extra mile. The folks in education, you're doing such a wonderful job. And I'm looking forward to being able to participate for the first time in the Delta Waterfowl University Hunt. I've come here with Luke Naylor and Brett Leach, and just am so happy to be a part of this.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
It does get hard, Brandon, when you're at the end, doesn't it? Yeah. Of course, Jan and Commissioner John did an unbelievable job. We had, a fabulous time. I've actually lived in Jonesboro in 2013 for about a year. My son is here, and what an unbelievable community. It's been great to see friends and people that we've known for quite a bit, and what an amazing area of the state it is. I think the shooting range presentation was exciting. I mean, pistols, archery, all the different things, what it has done for Dr. Patel and their family. I mean, that's something that we're all about. I mean, that's why we're here. That's what we're all about, and it just shows you tremendous success. On a lighter note, we saw Jason D. Williams last night. It was unbelievable, and something y'all might know, that Director Booth's wife, Chrissy, is such an amazing dancer. Where are you, Chrissy? You in the back? We got her on the dance floor last night, so she is quite amazing. So we had a great time. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Finley?
I should just yield the floor to Kristen, but I won't.
She can't say anything. That's the great thing about it.
That's the great thing about it. No, again, I echo what everybody said. My mother's family is Walnut Ridge. I lived in Walnut Ridge, Hoxie for a number of years, growing up into high school. It's always fun to come back to this part of the state. I've known it from back in the 80s to now. But we see Jonesboro every meeting. We see Northeast Arkansas every meeting when we see Stan Jones and Jan. They represent this part of the state so well. And their hospitality, their heart, and just their genuine Arkansan, that's within them. And if you don't believe it, go talk to all these people this morning at breakfast, and everyone around. They're as proud of Stan as Stan is of Northeast Arkansas. And that's what's rewarding to me, is the opportunity when we come up here and having hosted, listen, I know it's a lot of work. I'd rather host my family, because I don't care what they think. But hosting friends, it's challenging and it's work, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate all that went into that. It was a great 48 hours, Stan. We can't thank you enough. But kudos to you guys. Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season as we take our month of December off. And good hunting to each of you.
Thank you. And thank you all for the kind words. I certainly didn't let them speak. We always let them speak at the end of the thing. It wasn't to pay compliments to me or Jan by any means, but what all we did up here, we just dot our I's and cross our T's and want to get the most out of what little time. Everybody's time is important. We're just here for a little while. We have things that we want to accomplish, and I think yesterday and today, we accomplished a lot. And for you people in Jonesboro, for you people from Dave Donaldson, thank y'all for coming in this area. It's very important. With Dave Donaldson, and do I have some regrets? Soon, yes. When I first came on, I know that we had that money there, and it's earmarked for Dave Donaldson. I would have loved to got it finished. Just takes longer. It just takes longer to get this, but we're getting it right. We're getting it right. And I've got all the confidence in Brad and Luke and Ben and Chris and these guys that are doing this, that, like it said, it'd be 2025 to 2030 that we're going to see some greatness. Like Lake Conway, it's not going to happen overnight. But 3 or 4 years from now, we're going to see some greatness at Lake Conway at what's going to happen. And we are with Ashball, and we are with Dave Donaldson, with Bio DeVue. Jason takes people keeping their nose to the grind every day. People that are committed, and I know that you and Buck are. So thank y'all, and thank y'all for being here. Listen, we're going to end. Does anybody out here have anything they'd like to say before we close this meeting? And the legislature people that y'all are here, thank y'all for coming. Thank you very much. I couldn't call everybody's name. My daughter was here, and I didn't even introduce her. And so y'all are going, I won't hear about it. I might hear about that from them. Anyway, just couldn't, sometimes it's better not to introduce instead of introducing and leaving one out. And so Brian, I know we're here at your hometown as well, and thank y'all for coming, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to make Arkansas Game and Fish as good as it can be. And you know, in this, it's about balance. We want to be as concerned with replenishing wildlife and our streams as we are hunting rules and regulations. That we're keeping things in balance so that 20, 30, 40 years from now, Josh, your son will be able to experience what you've experienced. This is not just for today or tomorrow. This is for a long time that we're looking at. And it takes a bunch of people. Tim, thank you for your involvement with what we're trying to do. Thank you. With that, I'll adjourn this meeting and call this meeting to an end.
All right.